guys, I'm Scylla.
I'm Shannon.
And we're Normal Suburban Moms. So, we haven't done a ton of videos lately. We just yesterday uploaded a video with some life updates. And as you can see, we're filming this the same night because our clothes are the same.
And my hair is still wet.
So we're not even going to pretend that we're filming this at a later time. For us, it's still Sunday night. For you, it is probably Monday, unless you're watching this at a much later time, and then it could be any day of the week.
It's like magic.
Magic. Anyway, so we are going to do a little bit heavier topic today. We are going to get into some lighthearted stuff in the next couple of weeks. This one is not that. This is a little heavy, specifically about trauma and how it affects relationships. Because we both have trauma, and it has definitely affected our relationship.
Yes.
Thankfully, both of us are able, now, it wasn't always this way, but both of us are able to recognize, typically, when our past trauma is affecting our relationship in a negative way and try to work through it. But it wasn't always that way.
No. I'm just starting to get better at recognizing my trauma responses and trying to shut those down before they cause issues. But I mean, not only has it affected my relationships and our relationship, but it's also affected my work. But that's another video.
So when we talk about trauma, it can be any number of things, from emotional, sexual, physical, psychological, a combination thereof. Trauma can happen in many different ways, and once you go through something like that, it does stick with you.
Mm-hmm. It really does. Well, because you change the way that you behave. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not afraid to be a little more specific. I have suffered emotional, mental abuse, verbal abuse, some physical abuse in my past, and when you are a victim of abuse for years and years and years, and you literally have no power to get out of the situation because you're a child, the way that you act and react to things changes. And it's really hard to break those cycles as you grow older. It's almost like you get stuck in that cycle.
And an example of that is, to this day, and she recognizes it a lot more now than she used to, but I would ask a simple question, or I would be talking about one of my accomplishments or something like that, and she would take it the complete wrong way. For example, I've recently have come up with a really great laundry routine that's working out great for our household. And I'm really proud of that, because cleaning did not used to be my forte, and I'm getting much better keeping the house clean and getting our laundry taken care of every week and stuff. So and it had been a few weeks at this point that I had been doing it. So I was talking about how proud I was of myself. It was an innocent comment. I really was just saying I'm happy with myself for keeping up with this and doing this, and it's working out well. And she took it as an attack on her. I was saying she wasn't doing what she was supposed to be doing. When that was like, that didn't even cross my mind.
I was like, oh, sorry, I haven't been doing my... And she's like, what?
Yeah, it didn't even cross my mind at all. But that's just one example, but there's a lot of innocent comments I would make, and it still happens, although she catches it more now. But she takes it as an attack of some kind because she's used to
being attacked.
Being attacked in really passive-aggressive ways. So she takes a lot of things I say as being passive-aggressive when they're not.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've had to work through because it used to be really bad and would ultimately cause an argument because I would be lost as to where this was coming from, and she didn't recognize it, so she just ran with the I'm attacking her or I'm being passive aggressive, and we'd end up in an argument that I had no clue where it was coming from. And it took talking it through a lot and me saying, no, really, that was just an innocent comment. I didn't mean anything else.
Yeah.
For her to realize that is a reaction from my past trauma. That's how I would react when I was in this traumatic situation, and so it's a go-to.
Yeah. And it's really hard to change those things. And so I'll talk about this a little bit. I'm not going to go into specifics because it is about my workplace. Y'all know I'm a teacher. I was working with a colleague, and I have nothing personal against this person at all. And she's a great teacher. But as we were working together, her communication style is very different from mine, and she's more assertive. And to me, it would come across as, I'm doing everything wrong. I'm doing everything wrong. And, I don't think that that's what she meant, But because of my trauma, that's how I took it. And it was very emotionally difficult for me. And I ultimately ended up going to my supervisor and getting my schedule changed so that I didn't have to work with that teacher anymore. And it's probably, a disservice to the kids I was working with, but because of my trauma, I couldn't work in that situation. And again, I'm going to cry just thinking about it. Again, it's nothing personal against that teacher. She doesn't understand that I have trauma like that, and that the way that she communicates triggered that. So it's not her fault at all. It's all because of the way that I react emotionally to things, and take things very personally. I'm also, because of this trauma, quite a perfectionist, because if things weren't done to a certain level, then I was attacked and torn down and basically got in trouble. Or fights were had about me that I overheard. So, calm down, kitties. Cats are going crazy. Sorry, y'all. Anyway, so I've, over years and years and years, I've been conditioned to react this way. And it's a really, really hard thing to break out of. And I'm just starting to be able to recognize it more. Not every time, but I'm able to recognize it more so that I can kind of disrupt that cycle of emotionally feeling like crap, basically, because I'm not doing something perfect.
And you're not the only one with trauma that affects the relationship.
Oh, not at all.
I have trauma too. I don't do well if she raises her voice, or specifically if she gets mad and slams her hand against a wall or something, or the counter, or any sort of loud noise.
Loud, sudden noise, yeah.
Upsets me greatly. Any sort of physical reaction and anger upsets me greatly because of the environment my biological father created. As I've mentioned before, I have my mom, who is my biological mom. I have had a dad that was the best dad, who passed away last year. And then I have my biological father, who is really more of a sperm donor to me at this point. He caused exclusively my trauma. Okay, not exclusively, there was an X thrown in there, but the majority of
it.
He would yell and scream and sometimes flip tables. And
I just joke about flipping tables.
And it was very volatile. You didn't know when he was in a snap. Something you thought would make him snap, he was cool with. Something that you never thought would make him snap would make him snap.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah.
My mom's the exact same way.
Yeah, that's how my biological father was.
That's interesting. Okay.
Sorry. No, you're fine.
Proceed.
And so, but the thing that always got me off guard was he would do this and cause all this upset with everybody else in the house. But when he was over it, he expected you to be over it. And if you weren't over it, he would get mad again. Like, why aren't you over it?
And that's how my stepdad was. Oh my gosh, he was like 2 in 1. Girl. Okay.
And he also was very controlling. Let me see the spray bottle.
Kitties,
Please.
Doggies going crazy.
It's feeding time. As soon as we're done recording, they're eating.
They know it's time.
Anyway, he was very controlling of his daughters, and I use that word with quotes because I don't consider myself his daughter. I do have 2 half-sisters from him and my stepmom who also are unfortunately not in my life because I don't have a relationship with him. And that's a whole nother video about brainwashing and Stockholm Syndrome and gaslighting. But in regards to me specifically, and how it affected me, he kind of claimed our bodies too, in the sense, and I'm not talking specifically like molestation or anything like that, and using that is probably going to get us flagged on YouTube, so.
Well, we're not monetized yet anyway.
So. But I'm talking about just in general, if I was touched in a way that made me uncomfortable and I spoke up, I would get in trouble. And we're not talking about when I was a little girl. We're talking about as old as when I was in, like, middle high school, like 15, 16.
Baby, that's still sexual abuse. I'm just saying. Call it what it is. It's still sexual abuse.
He would do things like touch my behind. And if I would tell him, I don't like that, that makes me uncomfortable, he would say things like, that's my butt, I made that butt. Or he would kiss up my arm. And if I spoke up, I got in trouble. And that did affect our relationship, especially towards the beginning. She did that to me one time. If you remember, you kissed up my arm like that. And I freaked out.
And I was just trying to be sweet. And I'm like, whoa, what the hell?
She had no idea what she had set off in my head, but I freaked out. It took a little while for me to be okay with her randomly touching my butt. It would, like, startle me and, like, kind of make me freeze for a second. I'm okay with it now, only if it's her. If anybody else brushes up against me, I freak out.
And for a long time, I would ask her, hey, is it okay if I grab your butt?
Yes, and that's how we got me through that particular trauma, was she would ask me, is it okay? And so I knew it was coming, and eventually I got to where I was comfortable with her touching me that way. Like I said, if anybody even brushes up against me, though, I freak out. She's the only one that I'm comfortable with. So, yeah, trauma definitely on both ends has affected our relationship in different ways. And the reason I wanted to share this is because I think a lot of people go through trauma and it can affect your relationship, and sometimes you don't even realize that that's what's happening, that that's the issue. So if you notice it, pay attention to it, look for those trigger responses, and if you're with somebody that's reacting in a trauma response, be patient with them. Talk them through it. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's going to be fixed overnight. It's a process.
And we're still very much going through that process, and probably will be for years.
Yes. And so, like in the case of her verbal trauma responses, she still thinks I'm being passive aggressive sometimes initially before she thinks about it. And then she will actually say, that's a trauma response. I'm sorry. And we'll talk through it. Why did you think I meant this? Here's what I really meant. Where did this trauma response come from? Why did you go there? And we talk our way through it.
And it's, sorry y'all, jeez, I'm like all emotional. But it's not a comfortable thing to do. But we trust each other so much. Like I trust her with everything. And there's still things I haven't told her about my childhood that I've gone through. But I will eventually. And
I don't push her. I know she will tell me when she's ready. And I told her, when she's ready, I'll listen. And
I trust her with that. So while it's not easy still to talk through those things, it's important, and I trust her with it.
And as far as the physical trauma, like in my case, where she would ask to touch me in a certain way until I was comfortable with it and worked through it, you have to be patient with them. And I also know if it was something that I never got over and was never comfortable with, she would have let it go. You have to be patient, and you have to trust your partner. And if you're with somebody that won't be patient with you through your trauma, they're not the right person for you. You need to get out, because then that becomes its own kind of trauma and its own kind of toxicity.
Yeah.
So,
and talk about what you've been through.
Yes, communication. And you hear this on every relationship. What's the secret of relationship? Communication. Well, that's true in this too.
It sounds so cliched, but it's true. And like, we've both been through a lot. We've both been through, mental and emotional abuse, and physical abuse and sexual assault, and we've both been through a lot of things, but we have, a lot of that trauma in common too.
Yes, and someday I will sit down and make an in-depth video of all the trauma my biological sperm donor has put me through, not least of which because I lost half of my family because of the fact that they think he's wonderful and don't believe me. And so someday I will document it all. And if anybody on that side of the family happens to stumble upon this from my Facebook page, I will speak my truth someday. That is coming. Yeah. But past trauma doesn't just go away, and that's okay. And how you deal with it there is no right way or wrong way. The ways that we worked through it, we hope can help somebody find their way through it, but what worked for us may not work for you.
We've talked about it. We've been in counseling. We both plan to get more counseling.
Yeah, I still have memories that come up every now and again, and so I have a whole batch of new ones I need to go to counseling and work through.
Yeah, so like therapy is definitely a thing that we believe in and that has worked for us. Communication has worked really well for us, and just sitting down and being honest about your feelings and thinking about where they come from and why you react certain ways and when that started,
Yeah.
Is he growling?
He's growling.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah. Communication, therapy, counseling, medication, all of these things are ways to help mental health that have helped us. The main thing is whatever it looks like for you is you need a support system. And if your spouse isn't the center of that support system, or your significant other, whatever, then it's not the right significant other. They should be the center of your support system, because that's the person that is your partner, should be your best friend, should be the person you can tell anything to, the person you're sharing your life with. So whatever else it looks like for you, if you have a significant other, they should be the center of that support system. And in other news, bulldogs are stubborn.
Yes, they are.
We need to do a bulldog video.
Yes, we do.
Anyway, so just want to lastly throw out there, if you yourself have had trauma and don't feel like you have anybody to talk to, we don't mind listening to other people. We don't mind offering resources that have worked for us, that we have come across. So whatever it looks like for you, if you need help, reach out to us and we'll do what we can.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think that's about all we can say on this topic.
For now, yeah.
Said it was a bit of a heavier video, but a very important topic.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I didn't cry all the way through it, so that's good.
Awesome. So, here comes the obligatory, thank you. I can't talk tonight. Obligatory, like, subscribe, ring the bell, share, help us grow the channel, and stay tuned for more content. We'll see you next time. Bye.